Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming. This is our panel, What Google Doesn't Want You to Know About YouTube and Why Advertisers Hate Us. This is not clickbait. Real quick, this is a little bit clickbait. We actually work really closely with advertisers, so we work on making them happy. But through everything we do on a day-by-day basis, we hope that we can convey some learnings that'll help you work on your own YouTube channels, if you have any. So it's like quick poll, does anybody here in the audience have a YouTube channel? Is anybody interested in making a YouTube channel? And that's what may have brought them here today. Cool.
Let's do it. Yep. For sure.
Especially these days, working against the algorithm is becoming increasingly more difficult, where it's important to understand why it's doing what it's doing. And we had a conversation about this earlier. The way YouTube originally started doesn't really exist anymore, and it's important to understand like where it's going and why it's become a little bit more of like a marketing tool as opposed to something that's really like community driven. But we'll get to that in a second.
Cool. So let's get into what we're going to cover today. So first off, why us? Why are we important? What makes us qualified to talk about that? We're gonna touch on that briefly. And then it's more about the YouTube channel. So what is the mission of your channel? Figuring out what that goal is and then how to get there. Next up is how to build a workflow. We want to know how we can make this a scalable, sustainable thing. Something that it needs to be consistent. YouTube really favors consistency. So how do we make this a process we can replicate day in, day out? What kind of tech you're going to need to start off with, even from day one. It does really help out to have that solid baseline of tech, so it's an experience that people are going to watch and consume and be okay with. It's just like everything else on YouTube. Then into the best practices. So this is where we really focus a lot of our day-to-day is like how do we train and tailor these brand channels and creator channels to perform the best against the algorithm, to be found in search and suggested. That's really where we make our money. And then what's working, so how to figure out what's working on your channel. How do we scale against what's successful and what's not, and put your time and effort into content that people will watch. And then you can do some Q&A, but by all means, if you have a question along the way, just shoot it our way. So why us? I feel like we should let Cameron take this one away, because my picture is just ridiculous. But between the two of us, more on Cameron's side, we manage channels that have over 21 million subscribers, over 36 brand and creator channels, some of which you've definitely heard of, but unfortunately we can't discuss, and about 13 years of combined YouTube experience. So I started back in early 2010 into 2011 with my own channel, and got partnered quickly with Machinima. Unfortunately, I was working for a company that sort of derailed my progress, and I had to bail on the channel. But now I'm with Fullscreen. I do this full time. And then, Cameron, you want to take it away?
Yeah, so I have a background working in film and television. Originally, I worked more on the creator side doing camera work, script writing, direction. But the more I did that, I realized that it was interesting for me to pull back and work more on like a production and project management level. And I've been doing that increasingly, so now I've gotten to the point where I'm working really with the kind of content that I consume, working with YouTubers and brands that make engaging things where it's really fun for me to see the bigger picture and help them make things on a larger scale as opposed to being so close-minded and so close to the product on a creator level. So that's why I enjoy working on Fullscreen.
So we do actually know what we're talking about, although we are two little kids. Your mission... So, just a little tongue-in-cheek. Yeah, we should have put the logo. Yeah. So, yeah, although we don't all want to be PewDiePie, we all wish we had 50 million subscribers. So, how do we get there? Here's the brief overview of how we're going to set our path to greatness. The first one, like I said earlier, is defining your channel and your strategy. So what is my content? Do I want to be in gaming? Do I want to do vlogging? Figuring out what it is that you're going to be good at and you're going to be happy with doing. The second is, how is my offering unique? If you're a vlogger, what about your life is really exciting that would get people to watch over and over? And then what level of consistency can you have? You know, a lot of us have full-time jobs now, students even. It takes a lot of time out of your day to do it every day. So what level of consistency can you do now, and then maybe scaling up in the future? And then again, how will your channel scale over time? Like, can you make it a thing that is actually a form of revenue or something that you rely on?
And once you really know what your strategy is, it's important to understand what really tools are available to you to scale this and up your process. So at first you want to look at what kind of hardware you've got, software that you're able to work with, and we're going to go into this a little bit. And really based off of that, you want to make sure that you have a workflow which allows you to produce content consistently. As we touched on a little bit earlier, consistent content uploads to YouTube are really important. And a lot of people go out there and they're like, oh, I'm going to start this new show and like publish a new episode once a week. And then they do 2 episodes and realize that they're killing themselves doing that. The best tip I heard from working with people at Rooster Teeth, I'm not giving away too much because they've publicly talked about this, is when you're starting a new series, you should try doing like 4 or 5 episodes in the back end first, see what kind of time commitment that takes, and then start rolling it out, and then based off of that, really create a schedule so that you're not overselling yourself and you're not spreading yourself too thin. And then once you have that set up, you really want to test how things are performance and gather some data, which then can take you to phase 3 where you start running analysis to gain insights on how your content is actually performing and who it's reaching.
Cool. So it's important to build a plan so you can be like Tai Lopez. If you don't know Tai Lopez, he is a very smart man. He reads a book a day. He's a genius.
He has a lot of Lamborghinis.
He's really, really smart.
A lot of Lamborghinis.
But the point is, why do you need to know this? It's because at this point in time, just starting on YouTube is really, really tough. Standing out is really impossible without some of these tools that you can use to game both the algorithm and figuring out what content is going to work and how you can fit in. So, Cameron, you want to add anything?
Well, yeah, I think at this point, a lot of people come in starry-eyed thinking it's about making just good content. But really, it's not just good content. It's creating content that stands out, where you have a niche audience that's going to be there to consume it. Like, if you walk out there right now and say, I want to start a Let's Play channel, it's not going to be that easy. You're going to need a unique selling point. But on top of that, you also want to make sure that you have something that you can sell. As I touched on before as well, YouTube has changed. It's not really this community-driven platform anymore. You need to think about it right from the start. Am I going to create something that's advertiser-friendly so I can make use of the monetization platform in place? As you all know, after the adpocalypse scenario, how it was dubbed, a lot of people pulled out because they were afraid of putting their ads on stuff that was not brand safe. So these days, unless you're really like child-friendly, family accessible, you're not going to be able to run ads. So that's something you have to be aware of right from the get-go. If not, there are alternative routes where you can think of, okay, I can make content that's not necessarily advertiser-friendly, but it opens me up for sponsorship opportunities.
Yeah, and so that's a really big area where I feel like YouTubers and people thinking about getting into the space don't know enough about. Our company also partners brands with channels within the Full Screen Network. Some of them have as little as 10,000 subscribers, and these people are getting serious brand deals, assuming that they are brand safe. They're a person who has a varied, a bunch of interests that likes fashion and music and gaming and has different brands that could come to them. They're getting big brand deals. They get paid a lot, even if you don't have PewDiePie level subscribers. So it is worth mentioning, if you can get to 10 to 50,000 subscribers, there is a lot of brand deal equity in that channel.
And that's where the quality of your content comes into play. It's not about like making the best video, but if you can do something at a high production level and show that you can present in front of the camera, it shows brands that you're able to sell something if they want to bring you on for whatever types of projects. So it can be something as basic as a vlog. If you're going for like sponsorship and brand deals, if you're brand friendly enough, it'll work just fine. But one caveat there, because I know a lot of people might not want to go that route. That's just not who they are. If you're not going to be brand safe, YouTube might not be the place for you to make money. You have to view it more as a marketing tool in that case. And then you have to think about other platforms. I'm not going to get in that today, but that's why you have people like PewDiePie who are streaming on Twitch. H3H3 Productions who's streaming their podcast on Twitch as well. YouTube's not the end-all be-all for every type of content scenario these days.
Yep. Good points. So first up, building the workflow. So how are we going to get into this? There are a couple different points here. The first being tech, like we said, what kind of tech do I need to start with? Video production, again, that's going to take some sort of editing software, and even rudimentary editing skills. You don't need to be the greatest editor just to put a video together. It just needs to be simple at start, and then you can learn along the way. Then content optimization, that's where we're going to focus on what tools there are and what tricks that we have to game the algorithm and figure out where you're going to go with your content, how we can tag it up and put metadata in there. And then the reporting and analysis is important because you need to be looking at what's working. It's sometimes easy to get caught up in what people can comment, but a lot of the times you have a vocal minority who's talking a bunch of shit and they're actually wrong, and a lot of people are watching this content that the people who aren't saying anything are enjoying, and that's where you could be succeeding and your channel could grow. So it's important to keep all these 5 factors in mind. You want to go on this one?
It's all you.
Okay. So the channel strategy, how do we start? One, what's my channel going to be? Passion for the topic. Passion is really, really important. What we tell our creators and brands is if you don't love the content, it's going to come through. If you create something that you want to connect with, people will connect with it. It's really as simple as that. If you put your soul into it, it comes through. So that's really important. If I don't know anything about Dota, I'm not going to start making a Dota channel. People are going to see through it and it's going to fall apart. The current content in the space. What are people making in this space now that's succeeding? Where is there an oversaturation? Are there too many tips and tricks videos for Call of Duty, or are there not? There definitely are, so don't do that. Definitely don't do that. But where is there room for you to improve? Or maybe everyone does the same formula, but it's shit, and you could improve upon it, and it wouldn't be that difficult for you. How am I unique? Is it your personality? Do you have like a great radio voice? Is it you have just like, you're excellent at the game? Maybe you're like near pro level or former pro. These are things that would make you stand out in gaming. If it's in vlogging, again, it's a space that's so much bigger. But think about how you're unique and where you can sell people on that. There are channels that have done a great job of this, and they don't have like a huge claim to fame, but they've just exploited it in a great way. And the next thing is, are you a first mover? There was a huge instance of success I saw with Clash Royale rolling out. So there's a channel called Orange Juice Gaming. I'm not sure if anyone's ever heard of it. Clash Royale just released about a year and a half ago or so, whenever it released. He started from day one producing great content, very educational, informative, succinct, quality. And he has grown to over, I think, almost 1 million subscribers in 1.5 years. And all he's done is follow a simple formula, and he's been in there and committed since day one. And he just saw, this is a game that's going to start. It's going to be huge. They've had success before. I'm going to take off with it. And that's something that, if you see something like that, a signal. Overwatch was another one. When these games come out and they're recent, they're new, there's an opportunity to just jump on that. So that's huge.
And finding out what those opportunities are going to be a huge part of your research as you're starting the channel and as you're building it along the way. It's important to identify what key trends are really popping up. So let's say you did do an Overwatch channel. You want to find out what people are actually looking for. Is it character tutorials? Is it ways to navigate the map? Like, what kind of plays are really searchable? There's a lot of tools you can use to find this out, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. But on top of that, you also understand how this content is actually performing when looking at your competitors. Are people really building a community on YouTube, or is there like an external website for tutorials for, let's say, again, Overwatch tutorials? They have like a nice blog, and they embed in their posts, and that's how they're actually getting out there. So YouTube is really just a means to an end, and it's not really a community building platform in that case, which makes you want to rethink how you're actually strategizing your channel, how you're positioning yourself. Execution kind of ties into the things we've said before. You want to make sure that you have a consistent schedule, but also that it is built in a way that interacts with the people who are consuming it. Yes?
Talking about scheduling, what is the minimum amount of time you say you're going to release videos? What would you say? How often should you release something in order to maintain people's attention?
It depends on the type of content. It's broken up into 3 different categories. So if you're doing how-tos, tentpole content, and if you're kind of like a personality creator. So if you're that personality creator type person, that would be something where people are coming back every day to hear your commentary on current events, how your life is going, and just because of the way people interact with that, you want to make sure that you consistently release videos, because if you're doing a reaction to what happened on the news or how your day was, that's not going to be relevant after 48 hours. So you're going to want to have multiple of those a week. Yeah, exactly. You need to give yourself time to rest, but if your whole thing is, let's say it's reactions to trailers, every time a trailer comes out, you're going to need to have a reaction video ready. Yeah. Then something else, and I think this ties in a little bit more to something you'd be interested in, is like a how-to video, something educational. These pieces are more evergreen, so there's no point in having to force those out every week. Produce them when you can at a high production quality level, and just make sure that you're optimizing to the point that they will remain on your channel forever and always be relevant. So every time somebody So quick insight here, Reed works on a channel that deals with VR and rendering techniques. Is that a good summary? Yeah, so if there's like a certain technique that you're summarizing well in a way that nobody else has done, if you optimize it correctly, then every time somebody looks for that or that topic picks up in traffic, your video should be popping up.
You mean like keywords?
Yeah. Exactly. We'll get to that. And I'll get to your question in a second, too. The third and final way to plan your content is around tentpoles. So let's say you're somebody who follows event shows. You want to do commentary on the Oscars and the Grammys. You're going to be making content that really leads up to the event so that you're picking up traffic as you're getting closer. And then during the event, you want to publish as much as possible. Be reaction to the awards, commentary on what's happening on the red carpet, all these kind of things. And that's where you're going to see that spike in traffic. And again, you can optimize this in a way where it becomes evergreen, and every time award season comes around, these videos will be discoverable for these tentpoles. But you're not going to expect to see traffic year round. It's for these specific events. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So when I say it's moved away from the community it was, I'm not saying community doesn't play a factor anymore at all. But what I'm saying is that back in the day, it was more this feeling of anybody would get on there and talk straight to the camera, and that would be good enough. They could swear, they could put in footage from films, you name it. But the system has become so savvy, and brands have become so weary of people who say raunchy shit, that it's more about brands having a presence and creators who can be sold to brands. And those are the ones that are really growing the most now and can benefit from what YouTube is offering. Again, if you're going to be somebody who's not as ad-friendly, then you have to think of it more as a marketing tool and maybe something community building, but not necessarily something that lends itself as something to make money from.
So the question is about where, data to back up that ads were, or brands were more sensitive to where the ads are being placed. So the concern was that the brands were being shown on these channels showing, for example, ISIS training videos, and that their brand, their ad, was actually funding ISIS because that channel was supposedly, started by ISIS. So that was their concern. Once that got out there and word spread, yes, due to the media, a lot of advertisers pulled out who had been spending a lot of money on YouTube.
And then it got out of control where it's like, oh, it's not just ISIS, it's people talking about ISIS, it's people cursing. Like, I don't want my Reading Rainbow commercial to run on a video where a guy talks about what his favorite Kama Sutra position is.
So the main issue among that started this adpocalypse is Google's ad targeting that it offers through YouTube. Just default, if you go into Google and you're like, I want to buy some ads, these are the groups that it offers. The targeting that it allows you to select is very, very vague. And it does, like you said, it's blocking things that aren't necessarily, these are things that people should be able to find, but it's not allowing ads to be run on them because they're deeming them as not brand safe because the ad groups are so vague. And that's the reason that things popped up on ISIS is because it wasn't smart enough to see that there was some correlation there between what the topic actually was.
I would argue then a lot of it was less out of ill intent and just shoddy workmanship. We're seeing them pull back on a lot of things, but the main thing that came out when this whole thing started where videos were becoming not visible or deemed non-advertiser friendly is that creators really quickly realized that keywords they were using in the videos had this impact. And we realized this as well. Nobody's going in there manually reviewing your videos. And if in your title it might have certain words that they deem advertiser unfriendly, it'll suddenly not pop up. If there are keywords in there that they deem not suitable for children, suddenly it won't be visible in restricted mode. And you have to go in and actually request somebody to manually review your video to get it taken out of that. And only in the last week has it become visible for us to see what has actually been deemed not suitable for all advertisers, so not demonetized. You could see demonetized before, but you couldn't see what was deemed not suitable for all advertisers. And so I work on a channel, so I'll get to your question in a second, where all of our content is not suitable for advertisers, and I'm very aware of that. And what we always saw was like, okay, we're getting 6 million views, and for some reason only 50,000 of them are being monetized. Why is that? They're just lying to us. And then after that update came, we saw that every single video was deemed not suitable for advertisers, not suitable for all advertisers. And we ran a test where we started uploading videos with different keywords. And really almost everything got immediately dinged, like a second after it got uploaded. One video that I uploaded with absolutely no metadata was monetizable, but 24 hours later, it got that pulled away again, which just shows that our channel was flagged and everything we uploaded would just immediately be demonetized. Oh, and the caveat was I was uploading content from a different channel, so it's definitely not recognizing anything visually either. I was uploading content from a channel that was monetizable, yet by going onto my channel, they said it wasn't fair.
So what are those keywords?
We've been playing around. We've been playing around trying to find out what it is. I work with a news channel where we realized anytime you mention like terrorism, murder, death.
Even something like Syria, a lot of the times where they're just flagging things that are that happens to channels like NBC News. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, playing devil's advocate, you need to understand, I'll get to your question in a second, that they want to make advertisers as comfortable as possible because if they go away, they've got, like, YouTube could crash and burn real fast. So it's easier for them to make something really restricted and then loosen it up slowly over time as opposed to, like, slowly building your way up. They need a solution right now and bring everybody back in, which they were luckily able to do. Not everybody, but almost everybody. Yeah.
So did you notice that it was like more in the content of the videos themselves, or was it more like the tags of like the title and the descriptions that really turned it off? Like, what's the
Definitely the tags.
Definitely the title and tags. From what we can tell, YouTube can't really understand what's in the video other than it can match it to another piece of content, but it's not good at defining what's in the video without relating it to something else. It can't just like look at this video clip and know like, oh, this is Family Guy. It only knows it's Family Guy if it overlaps with what Fox has uploaded as like, this is a Family Guy episode.
Did they ever implement that reporting system, that incentivization for users to report? Get rat out other
I'm not sure. I don't think they have the point system anymore, but there is like an incentive for users to do that and like moderate comments. YouTube Heroes,
YouTube Heroes.
So, is 4chan versus Francis decided they're just going to start reporting things that they don't like for some reason, they have bots do it. To attack YouTube, I'm going to give them back for
Yes.
So on top of having to get yourself planned, on top of having to have content basically out every single day,
Mm-hmm.
you also have to do maintenance on that content to make sure it doesn't get pushed off of what the brand wants.
Yeah. I think in terms of if you're looking to YouTube for some sort of like to make money from the ads, yes, definitely being aware all the time of what content you're releasing and how it's going to be viewed by advertisers is the key. Honestly, I was to give a recommendation, I would start building a channel with brand deals in mind. I think that's the most sustainable, and it's the least volatile. If you're relying on revenue from YouTube, you're always relying on what YouTube does with its algorithm, with what ads it allows you to place based on your content. If it's brand deals, if you're well-spoken, you make good content, it's quality video, then they're going to try to put dollars behind you, whether it's giving you parts to review for a PC, or if it's sending you to a trip because you're a travel vlogger. Those are probably the better ways to make money off YouTube at this point. But I think keeping in mind all the brand safe and tags is ultimately important in both senses. Yeah.
You in the back?
So a lot of the kids don't take your video and upload from their channel to do like a video or something, and their channel is monetized. Do you get a share or not?
So this goes into Content ID. We're not going to go too in-depth into that, but the short version is yes, you can set up YouTube to match your videos on other people's channels and then start running your ads on them. This is really good for some of the people we work with where we have to go through all these approval stages to get the videos up on YouTube. So sometimes somebody sees the video on their main website, they'll rip it from there and upload it before we can even do that. And then they'll start racking up all the views like 24 hours before we get to put it on our channel. But we can then in the back end start matching against these videos and then run ads there. So even if their video has 5 million views and we only have 100,000, we're still getting 5 million views worth of money.
Yes.
Do you have strong feelings about Patreon?
I personally do.
Go for it.
Because I'm a huge fan of YouTube animators. And as Matt was just saying, how the algorithm can just change and ruin everything you do. That's what happened to a lot of animators on YouTube because it takes them like 3 or more months to make a minute-long video. And but back in the day, it would get so many views that was it, and it got tons of money. Great. These days, YouTube is all about watch time. So people are doing like these 30-minute like reaction videos and Let's Plays and all these things. And it's good content, but it's basically pushed all these people out who focus on quality over quantity. And that's why they're reliant on things like Patreon, which is why I think those services are important. But that also ties back into the whole idea of keeping brand sponsorships in mind and partnerships and how you can use that to make money, using external factors outside of the ad system.
Yeah, we'll grab you next.
The question I have is, are MCNs starting to offer services where you can insert commercials or like Audible, plugs for particular content creators that you represent?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much I can speak to it and what we're capable of doing at Fullscreen, unless you're a creator and you start working with us. But there are systems in place that allow MCNs to run custom ads on content within their network. So if you had like an Audible deal and all that's supposed to run your video is Audible videos, there are ways to do that.
Do you have to make a deal, or do you guys help them make a deal?
We help them make the deal.
Okay.
We have a system in place where there's like a promotion or an offer out, and you can raise your hand, and then like we'll send you an email with the rule.
Like the ad stuff is actually a boom for MCNs.
Yeah, a bit of it. If it's directly in.
Ads.
Yep. Yeah, because they're unskippable. Well, you can skip them, but it's through the video. Right.
Yeah, you in the back? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, what's your question on YouTube Red? Well, the thing with YouTube Red is, and correct me if I'm wrong, it works, you get YouTube Red views, which then make you money based on the fact that, okay, somebody who would have watched an ad on your video used their YouTube Red subscription to watch your video without the ad. So if you're not getting ads running on your video in the first place, YouTube Red is not going to do anything for you, unfortunately.
Right.
You had a question too? Oh, sorry, I thought you raised your hand.
Yeah,
Cool.
we're gonna dig into a couple of the things that are really cool takeaways. So first, tech and equipment. So as we mentioned, technical requirements, what we would say is good starting place to succeed on the YouTubes. Audio. So this Blue Snowball mic, I started YouTube probably 6-7 years ago, and Blue Snowball mics were around then, and they're still around now, and they're still a really good cheap mic. So if you're doing voiceovers, if you're doing I guess 2-camera stuff is not really going to work. But if you're doing voiceovers for gaming, it's great. This is a really good mic, super cheap, like $30, $50. If you're going to do vlogging, we don't know. I mean, we don't manage vlogging channels per se, I guess sort of now. But in terms of video, as long as it's high def, it's 720p, preferably like 60 frames, 1080p if you can. That's great. I think it's more about the quality of the angles that you're using. Like, get a tripod, get at least like a good hand cam if you're going to do vlogging. Just whatever you watch on YouTube, that's what you want to be making. Like, try to emulate or replicate whatever you watch in whatever way you can.
This ties a little bit into what we're going to talk about when it comes to analysis and understanding how your content is being consumed. But you have to remember that right now, mobile devices are really, for most channels, the majority platform that people are consuming YouTube on. So there's no point in you going out, getting a 4K camera and doing like this really crisp video because nobody can actually watch it. They don't have the bandwidth, they don't have the screen to actually see it. So if you're starting out with a 720p camera, it's not the end of the world. If you see everybody's watching on desktop and you can see what resolutions they're even running some types of videos on, that might be an incentive for you to up your resolution, but it's not a must.
Yeah, a good point in here is if you ever watch Twitch, a lot of the top Twitch streamers, they only use 720p or 900p. Very few of the big guys even stream in 1080 because that's just not a quality that they want to follow and not a quality that a lot of people stream from. And the last thing is software. We do recommend getting some sort of quality software, even if you don't have the skill set to utilize everything, like a Sony Vegas or an Adobe Premiere is really good to have. So that way, if you do progress and take it more seriously, you know, there's tools in there that you can use. You could find these illegally if you look hard enough. I mean, without money. So
we've heard there are ways.
If you
we don't know how, but you're smart enough.
If you can find them. Yeah. I know you can't find them, but if you could, you should use them.
Don't download stuff illegally. We do not condone this, nor anybody we're affiliated with. Just to be clear.
True. So these are actually, these 3 tools, they really, really are important. If there's like one takeaway and you're going to make a YouTube channel and you're going to try to scale it and perform well, these 3 tools and how you use them is really essential. So first is Google Trends. If you've never gone Google Trends, 1, it's fucking incredible. And 2, you can use it to support what content you're trying to make. If it's within a certain game, if it's news, if it's topical, you can type whatever in. And within Google Trends, you can search either web search or YouTube search. On the top right-hand corner, you'll find it. And it'll give you a list of keywords that people are using. It'll give you traffic spikes over time. It just is really insightful in helping you to find tent poles, finding out what people are searching at the very highest level. So that's a really good takeaway for Google Trends. The next one that is near and dear to my heart, I'll let you do keyword. vidIQ is a plugin for Chrome, and it's also a website. There are free and paid versions. Both are very worthwhile. I think obviously the free is free. The base version of the paid is $10 a month, and it's great. Really, really helpful. What it'll do is it'll show you what tags people are using on their videos, any video on YouTube. It'll show you what MCN they're with, also the traffic sources of their video, how it's being shared, if it's being found on Reddit, on Facebook, on YouTube, where people are getting a lot of traffic from. And then it'll also give you an idea of what topics and what keywords are trending. So within YouTube search, you search Pokemon, it'll show you all those keywords that are top searched and an estimation of the search volume, which is really helpful. And then also the competition. So competition of how many people are using these tags. What you really want is a tag that nobody's using, but everyone's searching. Those are like the diamonds in the rough. If you can find those, tag your video properly, that's going to allow you to stand out. So that's a really, really great tool.
What happens if your video has nothing to do with that diamond in the rough and you tag it anyway?
There are viable scenarios to do that. If it's related enough to a specific subject that you just want to overlap with other videos so that your video pops up as like a suggested video. Mm-hmm. Let's say you know, Jake Paul is really popular these days, and you're doing a video on editing vlogs, and then that would maybe then make sense to title it in a way and give it the metadata that overlaps with other Jake Paul vlogs, and you could make your editing tutorial, instead of like how to make a proper vlog, make it something like why you can make a better vlog than Jake Paul, and then title it properly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where these tools can be really handy to identify, we'll get to your question in a second, not only what topics to cover, but how to build your metadata. Keywordtool.io, I'm not going to get into it too much. It kind of ties into what Matt was saying vidIQ does really well in identifying like what popular keywords are out there. But all these tools combined are going to help you succeed on these 3 verticals we were talking about before. If you're doing like how-to content, or if you're doing like reaction type videos, or you're working around a tentpole. So let's say you are doing like how-to content. This way you can find out what questions people have and are they being answered. On top of that, you can figure out what tentpoles are really big throughout the year and how are they relatively to each other. What's bigger, the Oscars or the Grammys? Your gut check would maybe say the Oscars, but if you see what people are looking for on YouTube, the Grammys might be bigger. Yeah, Adam.
I realized my question was going to be a trolling one.
Thank you. Next slide.
So best practices on YouTube. So there's a pretty clear audit that we like to do for channels that come across the desk. And
Shout out to Resident Evil's inventory system.
So this is a quick checklist of how we look at a YouTube channel and what we think of it in terms of optimization. So if a channel satisfies all of these checkboxes, we think that that channel technically is in a pretty good place. Now, this is about how the content is set up and structured in the back end, more of the metadata, the descriptions, titles, and the features of YouTube that it's using. It has nothing to do with the content. The content could still be dog shit, but at least your channel is completely optimized. So while we can show you that these things are important, content ultimately is important. For example, there are channels that don't tag anything and still succeed and perform very well. But then there are also channels that maybe don't get or should, are really small and really need all the help. And this is what pushes them over the edge to get noticed. So this is a quick snapshot of what we really look at. And I think Cameron is really, really nitty gritty on this day to day. So do you have anything to add that I didn't cover on that?
I think there are lots of ways where metadata becomes unintuitive and really fun to, use as a strategy. And sometimes it's just jumbling up your words in ways that people might write it on their keyboard because they don't know how to type. False spellings of stuff, leaving out spaces, combining really weird keywords. One of the strongest keywords I found was Beyonce surprise, all one word, no spaces. It is one of the highest ranking tags. If I can have surprises or Beyonce in my video, that tag is going in there for no reason other than that it's a bomb-ass tag.
This is what you learned today.
I have a legit question.
Let's go.
How do you calculate the engagement rate?
Good question.
The short answer is engagements over views. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so you take all your engagements and divide it by the amount of views a video gets, and that shows you for like every view how many people are interacting with it.
Okay, so sub-question. What's an engagement?
An engagement is either a like, a dislike, because these days people use the like system to say like how they reacted to it, not necessarily if they liked the video or not. A subscription, if somebody added your video to a playlist. This is not just making like a best of compilation, but this is also if they add it to their watch later playlist. This is a huge thing because when you get to the main page, you'll sometimes go like watch later, watch later, watch later, take 3 videos and then watch them. Count as an engagement. A comment and a share.
So let's just say there's a lot of different types of engagement. Can you only count one? Like let's say they do all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Does that increase that number for all of them? Or because overviews, then you would have a very, like, that's not like appreciated.
If you were to like and share the video, that would be 2. So yeah. So
It
it's
could go over 100% or over 1. So it's not like
it could, yeah. Yeah.
you don't need to define.
If it's over 100, please contact us. We would love to manage your channel.
Any other questions on engagements? Cool. Yeah, and here's just like an example of channel Zillow and how their meta optimization can really affect how searchable their content is. So we just looked up what was the keyword here? Was it their channel in particular? Like
home buyer's guide.
Home buyer's guide. So you're looking, that's something this channel wants to dominate, and when you look it up, you see that only a certain number of the videos are populating, even though that's all they're building their content around. So if you're doing, like if you have a channel, let's say you're doing guides on VR rendering, and you type that in, and there are certain specific, engines that you're covering, and you see that, okay, these are other videos that are popping up, find out why, see how their metadata might be better, and why is their content more searchable, and that's something you'd want to work against, so that when you type in a keyword that you're working on, all your content should be popping up. So release frequency, we touched on this a few times, but having a consistent rollout schedule is important. How you're going to roll out content and how frequently really depends on what type of channel you're running. But one thing we can't stress enough is that you should never over-publish. You don't want to publish too little, but what's worse than publishing too little is publishing too much, because that's how you scare away subscribers. If anybody subscribes to any esports channels, I get this all the time with like people from Evo. Evo just happened, and then they suddenly upload like 60 videos and notify subscribers on every single one, so you go to your feed and all it is Evo stuff. So like, I'm going to unsubscribe from Evo because I know it's out there, but I don't want this killing my feed. There are ways to work around this where you upload a video and don't notify subscribers when it actually goes public, and so that's really something you have to keep in mind.
Go ahead.
So do you have a recommendation when it comes to YouTube and outside of YouTube, social media, for like the frequency or time length between posts?
This question was asked earlier. If you had been on time. No, it's a legitimate question. Just to cover it real quick, is that if you're doing something that's evergreen, it doesn't really matter. Let's say a how-to, or maybe it's around a tentpole event. It's for the tentpole event. And if you're doing something that's more reactionary, let's say you're doing news on Destiny content, it's important to publish that video as it's happening.
Yeah. Okay. So like, let's say I develop content, and which is enough content that I'd like to post out five posts throughout a 12-hour period from 9
Yep.
a.m. to 9 p.m. Is that too much? Like, how would you limit that? Like, if I'm putting out videos in a 12-hour period,
Sure.
how many would I want to limit that to?
I think as long as there's a big enough gap in time and you're equally spacing them out, you should be okay. The one thing to consider is, what's your frequency been in the past? Like if you publish one video every week for the past year, subscribers have been accustomed to that, and that's what they expect from you. Then you start publishing 5 to 10 a day, and they have a feed, and they set their feed and their notifications in a way that this is how they want and use YouTube. If you come in there and just start like fucking stuff up, they could unsubscribe. So that's one thing to consider. But as the best advice there is, if you need to publish them, then evenly space them. So give them 2 to 3 hours for a window for each video. And if you can't, maybe publish one as notify subscribers, publish the rest, don't notify, but put them in a playlist. So that person clicks one and then is going to be driven to watch the rest of them. Or you could put like a shout out in the first video, like, hey, watch these other ones. I don't want to like spam your shit, but here, this is content you're going to enjoy.
And ask yourself, are you going to be publishing 5 videos every day forever? Do these 5 videos have to go up today? Or
Right.
can I space them out? So like maybe you have 5 videos in one day because you went to a really cool event. Maybe they're tied to the event, so you want them all at once, but maybe they're evergreen enough that you say, all right, I'll do 1 video a week for the next 5 weeks because I can't keep doing this every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And then, in all honesty, if you have a channel like this and you're considering publishing more, I would feel it out by first notifying about 2 videos and then doing the rest unnotified, and then like keep doing it more and more and more and see how specifically subscribers are interacting with your content. This is something you can see in your analytics, specifically subscriber engagements and viewing behaviors over non-subscribers.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Cool. So what's working on the channel? A good way to get a read on this is listening to the community. Like I said, comments are helpful, but making sure that comments align with what the numbers say. If people say that these videos are shit and no one watches them, but they're your highest watched videos, then like these people are clearly on drugs. So don't pay attention to them. Yes. But secondarily, if people have questions or comments or concerns or thoughts about what content you should make, you know, maybe you don't want to follow their direction, but responding to them is great. It shows that, you know, you're active, especially once you get to be a larger channel. That's a lot of the time where larger channels just tend to say like, oh, now I'm making a lot of money, screw the people. But the people made you the money, so it's important to remember how you got there. And that's a lot of the way that, you know, channels just sort of, they get overrun with trolls. People just take over the comments, and the poster doesn't sort of moderate that. So listen to what people say, but, you know, always try to react and try to be active in hearing out the community.
I feel like this is where, tying into the whole comment earlier of YouTube is not really about the community anymore the way it used to be. This is where it still is about the community, and it's still a very valuable platform because it allows viewers to interact with the creators of the content they're consuming. And this is why I say first and foremost, unless you're being brand safe, view YouTube as a marketing tool. It's a way for you to listen to how people are reacting to it. It's a way for you to build a community of peers and really to show appreciation for those who consume it. Oh, they haven't been for a while. YouTube, like, hope goes to die in YouTube comment sections.
Yeah. Yeah, it's.
Oh, yes. Well, I think they're going for more like a Reddit-y type direction where they're trying to filter stuff by like most engagements and like what are popular comments, but for another time.
Cool. So analytics and reporting. So everyone who has a channel has access to analytics on their videos. It's important to know how people find your content, what devices they're watching it on, what they're engaging with. So if you have one piece of content that you have 50 engagements on, but the rest of your videos only have 50 total, maybe go the direction of the one that drove the most engagements, or figure out why that one got the most engagement. Retention. Where in your video are people falling off? Like in this panel, where did we lose people? That would be an important metric for our YouTube channel. Like, why are people? Yeah, bye, Colin. It's not like why do people suck. It's like why was my video shit at this point? They decided to peace.
Real quick on that, I feel like audience retention is one of the coolest things you can look at because somebody has like this bomb-ass intro with these cool graphics they worked on for ages, but you realize this intro goes for 10 seconds. I lost 80% of my viewership as this intro is running. I should probably cut the damn intro.
Yeah, that's a good note. You usually don't use an intro. If you can avoid it, just jump straight into the content.
Yeah.
And the last thing is what formats and subjects work. If you talk about all games, but Destiny 2 is the one that works right now, then talk about Destiny 2 and don't talk about PUBG or no. Sorry. Sorry. Sorry.
Whoa.
That was a bad one. But just figure out what people are watching and what format of your content works best.
Oh, wow. And look at this. With only about 10 minutes left, we're going to open the floor to any open questions. Okay.
Whose face is that?
I think you all know whose face that is.
Not a human one.
Not a human face.
I don't know whose face that is.
Mass Effect Andromeda.
But yeah, I didn't play that.
Yeah, but you
Thank
must have
God.
seen this husk of a
Neither did
woman
the
that was
developers.
presented.
It's not Destiny 2, so.
Even the developers gave up.
So quick side note, Mass Effect Andromeda came out a while back, and they did something freaky with the eyes where they all looked kind of dead and without hope.
Yeah, I can see that. Like every clip, someone made like a montage of like.
Oh my God.
There it is. Donkey's video, yeah. Donkey's the best.
What do you think that guy sounds like? And then he plays it.
Yeah. Yes.
Is there an actual, I guess, I'm expert at seeing YouTube videos that the first comments that come in tend to be that's not really related to the content of the video film. They look like they even watched it, and as days pass, those comments get to the bottom list and the more prevalent ones at the top.
I've noticed that really depends on who you're working with. So if you're working with somebody like a creator where they have really engaged fans, they're waiting for the next video to come out. So the minute it hits, yeah, you're going to get a few people saying first, but there are people who are genuinely interested in joining the discussion. And a really easy way to improve on that is make community management one of your goals when uploading videos. So you say, like, every time I upload a video within the first 24 hours, I'm going to respond to questions and join the discussion. People will come to realize that, and therefore you'll get more productive comments in the first few hours. What I've noticed on really small dead channels, not dead, but like let's say you just start a channel, you got maybe like 100 subs, you're going to get a ton of comments that are just spam bots trying to link you to places to make money or get royalty-free music. And then next to that, you know, if the majority of your traffic is coming from non-subscribers, I feel like you see this a lot with branded content because those people aren't coming for the personalities. They're coming through like search and suggested. There, a lot of the comments can be really random and just, you know, like you said, the real comments will come in over time.
In the event that you are a young channel and you get a lot of spam bots, is it more in your interest to delete those so that you just have your relevant comments, or should you delete them so that YouTube thinks you're making videos more?
So they're really likely to be caught by the spam filter, and then you don't have to delete them, and they're sitting in the back end, so you keep the engagements, and you don't have to make the comments visible. Just leave them.
Two questions. All right, you know when people start off their video and they're like and subscribe and all this bullshit for like, you know, the first 2 minutes? So annoying. You recommend people do that shit?
Smash that like button. So I'd love to hear Matt's thought on this, but I do and I don't recommend that. On the one hand, the reason why they're doing that is because some people are volatile enough that they'll just do it. They'll hear that and be like, he said to hit the like button. I should hit the like button. What I would say when I see stuff like that that makes me want to close a video, the reason why this annoys me is because it's not for me. There are kids out there who see that shit, they like it. That's why you have these videos which for some reason have 300,000 likes, because that shit works. But that's something you're going to see in your analysis. You're going to look at your audience retention and see, okay, like when I'm running this like weird, stupid call to action at the beginning, I'm losing like 80% of my audience. Unless like maybe I have a really hot person, regardless of gender, doing this at the beginning of the video. And that is making people do it. So maybe having a CTA like that done by the right person can be helpful.
Yeah, I would say do it at the appropriate time. If people get to the end of your video, you should remind them. Like if you got to this point in the video and it's after 8 minutes, you probably like the video. You should just remind them. They'll just forget. But definitely don't spam it. But again, like Cameron said, maybe it's worth it to test varying degrees. Just don't lose your dignity while doing it. Yeah. So definitely try to do it before then. But
we'll get to your question in a second. Yeah, right here.
I actually have more of a comment. Like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, you know, if someone's commenting that your videos are terrible, I don't want to watch them, and they're going up in viewership, obviously you shouldn't listen to those people. Don't become your commenters. You know, you might not like something that you're doing in your video, but as long as you're not losing your dignity, you know, it's something if you really want your channel to succeed,
But yeah, if you're out there to make money, sometimes you have to give up your dignity if that's what works. I think that's why research is a really important part. You have to understand, like, why is my content working? And if what works is something I'm not comfortable with, you have to ask yourself, should I keep doing this? Because what I'm really intending to do simply doesn't resonate with the audience.
I mean, down top of that, you know, everyone comments about why there's so many Hollywood remakes. They ain't millions of dollars.
yeah.
Yeah.
One YouTuber copied what a whole bunch of other YouTubers are doing is because that's what people want.
Unfortunately, yes.
Pushmo. So, yeah, so YouTube, the reason that YouTube made that push towards watch time is they're trying to alleviate that. They're trying to alleviate if people are doing clickbait with like a girl in a bikini, but the video is just like a guy in front of a camera that the whole time. They're trying to show that the retention on that video should be terrible, so it should naturally fall in the algorithm, versus a video that has an appropriate thumbnail and is appropriately titled. People are going to click it and consume it all the way through, as long as it's quality. So clickbait thumbnails should be penalized, but sometimes some creators get away with it just because they have a following that will click whatever that they publish.
And the thing that we notice, which kind of sucks, is that it's really watch time that counts and not percentage watched, because they want to keep people on the platform as long as possible. So if you have a 5-hour video and they're clicking around for 5 minutes to find that point and they realize, okay, the thumbnail's not there, they still watched it for 5 minutes. That video might be more valuable than going back to like an animator example who did like a really crisp, amazing 1-minute video, but it's only 1 minute. So it's not getting them the attention that they want.
Good point.
Recently, YouTube rolled out this whole preview GIF system, you may have noticed, where if you hover over a video, it shows like a quick preview of it. And we suspect, or at least I do, that this is them trying to crack down on spammy thumbnails, because the way it works is that whatever thumbnail you use, if it's from the video, it tries to play from that point, as long as it's from the first half of the video, because I don't want to spoil it, I guess. And if there's a discrepancy there, this might flag the video in the back end. We're realizing, okay, they're using a thumbnail that doesn't line up with anything in the video. Why is this happening? And there is actually a system in place where people can report videos with clickbaity/spam thumbnails, which can give you a strike on your channel. Kind of like a copyright strike. If anybody knows this, if you get 3 of them, your channel gets shut down. Well, the thing is, his thumbnails would not necessarily be considered clickbaity, because he's showing the subjects of what's in his video. He's not just, he used to back in the day just have like women in bikinis and that was a thumbnail. Not so much anymore. He tries to put in pictures of the stories that he's covering, and I think that's why he's getting around it. Plus, there's still, sorry, we'll get to you in a second. These things can still be appealed with your proper YouTube representative. So if you're explaining like, all right, this isn't in my video, but it pertains to what I'm actually talking about, they might show some grace and then not take it down. Yeah.
This is more of a question. I was just building on what you said there. I think it was just a video that I watched recently. He was saying that clickbait itself can sort of be like misinterpreted, where like you were saying there, it's specifically like if what's in the video is misinformative compared to what it was like tagged and what needs to get on in the first place. Whereas I guess people like view it as anything that baits you into watching the video might be like clickbait, but at the same time, it's really more like, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fine line between false advertising and
Yeah.
baiting the viewer.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Well,
with the Jake Paul example.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
So what happens if someone challenges your content ID even though you're the original author?
Oh, I love these. I love content ID. I
These
could
are
talk
good.
about this for a while. So, if YouTube automatically claims a video, this is not a DMCA takedown. That's a whole other subject. You are given the option to dispute it. So this would be the scenario. You've uploaded a video. Somebody else pirated it. The system recognizes the pirated version and then claims it. That user gets dinged, and he can then dispute that claim. This is the scenario you're talking about. So if they dispute it, it then lands in your inbox as, yo, this claim was disputed. Is this something that's real? What you can do then at that point is either reinstate the claim and reinforce the policy that you originally set, be it monetize, block, track, whatever, or you can issue a takedown. You have 30 days to do this. If you don't do it after 30 days, the user gets to keep the video, and you can't reinstate your claim. So make sure you keep an eye on your queue. If you send it back to them, then they are given the option to take the whole thing to court and like make it a bigger process and argue why it is actually their video, blah, blah, blah. This is kind of ties into what happened with H3H3, in case anybody heard of this, where it went back and forth to the point where it became a court case. So you kind of want to avoid this happening. Usually what happens, like if you're a branded content person, will like take somebody's video down, like, oh, but I only used this and it's fair use and blah. Fair use is not really a legal defense. It's become easier now through this court case. But usually what happens if you just reinstate that claim, they just shut up and that's it. The DMCA takedown is then the more harsher version of that, where the video gets removed from their channel, regardless of what policy originally set. They get a copyright strike on their channel. Again, after 3, the channel gets removed. And the only way to fight against that is legal action. If it's a quick one, we're actually unfortunately out of time. then you might want to work with somebody like Fullscreen who may be able to magic you better. Or reevaluate how you are claiming in the first place. Your claims may be too broad and you're over-claiming videos. Like if you're claiming something that's public domain, audio or visuals. Hey, we won. Thank you, everybody.